Hi everyone and welcome back. First let me start by saying Happy New Year. I know it's a bit late, but I haven't posted a video in a while. I think it was before Christmas I haven't posted anything. So yeah, Happy New Year to all of you. I did actually have a video, well a two-part video in fact, to post just before Christmas, but it really was a disaster. So I didn't bother posting it. But today I've got a Seascape drawing for you. A couple of you have asked for that in the past, so I thought I'd get on and do that today. So I'll just quickly run you through the kit that I'll be using. I've got a couple of erasers here. I've got the Koh-I-Noor pencil eraser and the Tombow Mono very fine eraser. I've got a kneadable eraser. Well, actually it's blue tack. Does the same job at half the price. You know me. A 2H pencil, HB pencil, 2B pencil, paper blender, dust brush for brushing away the eraser crumbs and for softening off graphite, and of course the controversial set square. Now then, the paper that I'll be using I haven't actually used before. It's Fabriano Bristol paper. This was very kindly sent to me by my YouTube friend in Germany, who's got an art channel on YouTube. I'm going to put a link in the description below to her channel. It's called Coloured Pencil Art, but it's actually in German but translates to Coloured Pencil Art. She works in graphite, coloured pencils, watercolour. She's got a lovely channel there, so go and check out her channel. What we've done a paper exchange. I sent her some paper that she couldn't get too easily in Germany and that she hadn't tried before, and she sent me a few samples of paper which I hadn't tried before. I haven't tried the Fabriano Bristol paper. Really looking forward to try it. It's a very smooth paper, so it's going to be nice and easy to erase graphite from, and nice and easy to blend and everything, but I'm imagining I won't be able to get too many dark layers on there because it's fairly smooth. But we'll give it a go and see how we go with it. Right, okay, let's get busy. Okay, so I'm going to start off by drawing a line approximately 1/3 down from the top of the paper, using a set square to keep it nice and level, and 2H pencil. That's going to be the horizon line. I do apologise, the autofocus on the camera wasn't working properly for this bit, but basically all I'm doing, I'm just using graphite powder on some tissue, and I'm just rubbing it across the top part of the sky there, and leaving a lighter area in the middle to suggest a bit of sunlight. Just keep working it over just to keep it nice and smooth. Now I'm using an HB pencil, and I'm just starting to shade in the top area of the sky, and particularly in the corners. That'll add more focus to the lighter area in the centre of the sky. And I'm blending it in, keeping it nice and smooth. Don't want any hard edges at all in the sky. I'm going to use the pencil eraser now to start drawing in some cloud shapes. I'm not going to go for a big dramatic sky or anything like that in this scene. I think when you do a seascape, you've got to decide which one you want to be the dominant element, either the sky or the sea. And this particular picture, I'm going to make the sea the most dominant element, so I don't really want a big dramatic sky with this one, so just a few simple cloud shapes. Just drawn in with the pencil eraser, and then with the graphite that's kind of left over on the tip of the blending stump, I'm just blending in some of the sky area into the base of the clouds and just softening it off in the middle, so it kind of looks like sort of a silver lining effect, if you like, on the clouds. And again, keeping everything nice and soft in the sky. As I'm working further down the sky area, I'm trying to make the clouds a little bit more linear in shape, a little bit flatter, because there is an actual perspective to clouds. The further away they get, the lower down in the picture they are, and the flatter they become. And you'll notice that when I draw the clouds in very close to the horizon, they're nothing more than just straight lines, really, just sort of soft straight lines, and that's really all you need. Now I've turned the paper just on its side, and I'm using the set square and the eraser pencil just to straighten up the horizon line again, to keep it nice and level. And just a little bit of blend in there just to take away the hard edge. And you'll notice as well that I'm starting to pull a little bit of graphite down from the sky area actually into the ocean, and with the graphite that's on the paper blender, I'm just pushing down a little bit harder just to get a slightly darker horizon line there. And now I'm going in with a 2H pencil, and I'm starting to draw in the distant waves and things like that. And what I'm doing, I'm using horizontal pencil strokes, and I'm leaving little gaps in between just to suggest little wave breaks and little sparkles on the water and things like that. But I'm keeping it fairly soft and not too detailed because it's way off into the distance, but I just need just a little bit there, or it's just going to look like a flat area of graphite, and I want it to look like the ocean in the distance, obviously. So going in with the eraser and pulling a few little highlights here and there, and then just going back in between with the 2H pencil, just add just enough detail just to suggest the ocean at a distance. Now I'm using an HB pencil just in this middle distance area, just to start defining a few more wave shapes, like where the crest of the wave is coming forward. There's going to be sort of shadow at the back of that and either side of that where it's blocking the light. So the HB pencil, just to suggest a little bit of shade just there, should look good. And also I used an eraser just at the side of the waves there, just to suggest a little bit of foam patterns in the water. Okay, not too much detail because it's still sort of in the middle distance. I'm saving all the detail for the foreground. So I'm using the HB pencil now. As you saw, I drew in a rough shape of a wave break in the foreground. And there's sort of like the eye of the wave there, which is just sort of under the crest of the wave, which I'm trying to get darker at the bottom and lighter at the top. And all along the bottom part of that wave, I'm trying to get darker than the area above it, so it looks like there's sand and silt and everything being sort of lifted up from the ocean bed and pulled up into the wave. But as the wave gets higher, it seems to reflect more light through the back of it. So that's the effect I'm going for, keeping it slightly lighter at the top and darker at the bottom. And obviously the right hand part of the wave there is all going to be foam and water splashing around and everything, so that's going to stay fairly white. But I did add just a little bit of shade in there with the graphite that was on the blending stump. Nothing too detailed, just gently rubbed it over here and there, and I'll be going back in later on with the eraser just to pull out a few sort of water splashes and highlights and things like that, just to give it more of a realistic effect. Now I'm using the 2B pencil to start adding more definition to the bottom part of the wave and at the back of the wave, so that it really stands out nicely. And you can also see that I added a few foam patterns as well, just in the break of the wave there, because as the wave's lifting up, it's kind of pulling up the foam pattern that the previous wave has kind of left on the surface. Sort of hard to explain really, but as I say, I'm not really copying from a photo or anything. I've got sort of several photos I'm actually looking at. I'm kind of taking elements from all of them. And that seems to be sort of a common feature with a lot of waves. You know, as they're just about to break and they're lifting, they pull up the water that's in front of it. And you get this kind of patchwork effect of foam on the water. So that's what I'm really trying to get the detail of that into the picture. And now with the blending stump, as you can see, I'm pulling it down in front of the wave to create sort of vertical lines, very soft vertical lines, which should help give the impression of reflections and the illusion that there's sort of a little bit of depth in the water. It's going to be very subtle because I'm going to be going over that, as you can see, with an HB pencil, blending it back a little bit, and also going over it with an eraser to make those foam patterns. But you should just see just enough of those vertical lines just in the background, well, not in the background, but just below the surface, just to give it, you know, like I say, that impression that it's reflecting the white water that's above it and the dark area of the wave that's at the bottom there. And I'll repeat that process a few times, just until I'm absolutely happy with the way it looks. So now with the fine eraser, I'm just starting to mark out sort of directionally, if you like, some of the foam patterns that are sitting on top of the water there and that's actually being pulled up by the wave. Trying to get the illusion that the wave's actually lifting, and as I come more forward the foam patterns are kind of flatter. I did actually spend quite a while doing that, but before I actually get carried away and start doing it on the right hand side there, I'm just using the kneadable eraser just to pull out a few more vertical reflection marks, if you like, just to suggest the sort of the white foam that's above it. And also going back in with the HB pencil in between those white lines, just to sort of give a little bit more definition, and also going back in with the blending stump just to keep them nice and soft as well. Now I'm using the pencil eraser just to erase out a waterline just along the edge. I'm using little sort of circular motions just so it's very sort of random, fairly soft, but I want to get back to nice clean white paper for this. Just adding sort of a little bit of a wavy shape there. It doesn't really need to be a straight line, so a little bit of curvature just here and there all look nice. And also I'm using the eraser just to sort of flick the back edge of the white waterline there back into the water, just to give a nicer effect. It sort of adds a little bit of movement to the water. And now with an HB pencil, I'm just gently shading in under that waterline, and then just softening it back a little bit with a blending stump. It's fairly important to get a reasonably dark line underneath that sort of foam edge along the water there, but it must be soft or it won't look very good at all. So I'm softening that back, and again I'm using that same process that I used with that big wave. I'm pulling down with the blending stump to try and get some sort of vertical reflection marks, but I decided I needed that area just to be a little bit darker, so I used some graphite powder on a tissue and just pulled that down, and then tried to get a few sort of random marks with the blending stump, just sort of working over the graphite powder, just kind of moving it around a little bit, and then it's in with the kneadable eraser just to pull out a few lighter areas. Again, it's that same principle of trying to get an underdrawing, if you like, to start the reflections off, to start the process of drawing the reflections, should I say. So now when I go over it with you know, white lines, those white foam patterns, and that's underneath it, it should give a really nice effect. Now with the pencil eraser I'm doing exactly the same process as what I've just done. I'm putting another water edge in along here. Again, I'm just using little circular motions, trying to give a nice wavy shape to the front of the line there, and it'll just be the same process repeated. Once I've established that white line there, I'll go in with the HB pencil and just darken off on the base of it. But as you can see now, I'm just sort of pulling the back edge of that foam line back into the water. Again, it sort of helps to give it the impression that it's kind of moving, and the foam patterns will kind of blend into that nicely. So now I'm going in with the HB pencil and creating that nice dark line underneath the foam there. And now with horizontal pencil strokes, I'm going to start just to darken that area quite a bit, because I want that to sort of suggest sand when it's wet, and it just kind of looks darker along the water edge just there. So now I'm using the Tombow Mono eraser to start drawing in like the foam patterns and the shapes on the surface of the water. It's exactly the same process that I used for the wave that's just behind it. You can use a pencil eraser or a fine eraser, it doesn't really matter. They both work equally as well, just whatever you're comfortable with really. And trying to keep the bottom edge of those waves nice and soft as well. So now that's pretty much done with the ocean part. I thought I'd add in a little bit of distant headland there, maybe a few cliffs, little lighthouse or something. So I'm using a 2H pencil for that, and I'm going to keep it fairly soft because it's in the distance, but I don't want it to look lost or insipid or anything like that, so I'm sort of keeping it a little bit darker on the top. Then as I come further down, I'm leaving it lighter, just to give the impression that there's sort of mist on the sea or something like that, and they're kind of just fading out off into the background. It should look quite nice. I'm even going to add in a few little seagulls, why not? Just put two in, just to give sort of a bit of interest to the picture. And again, on the left hand side I'm going to add a little bit more land, just there, just way off into the distance. Exactly the same process as the right hand side, keeping it darker at the top but keeping it generally soft and faded in. So there's the finished picture. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed it. So thanks very much for watching, and take care everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.